Welcome to our webinar about winning membership websites. This is actually backed by popular demand. We ran a session earlier in the year, again, about various aspects of websites. This is updated because quite a lot of things have changed, even in the last 6 months. It's quite fast moving. So we'll press on with the webinar. So firstly, hosts today, you'll be hearing mostly from Alan and from Leisha, and then I'll be wrapping up towards the end with some summary points and so on, but everyone will introduce themselves as they go along. And in terms of the session, we are recording, so we'll be submitting that recording at the end of the session. If there are any questions as we go through, then please use the chat box. We'll respond to them as we can. We'll have Q&A at the end anyway. And I know some people have already submitted some questions, so we'll be picking those up. But please, make it as interactive as you can. In terms of the agenda, we've got some research into what we've found with member websites from our own customer base, but from the general market as well. Also what's changing, so what's been happening recently, but also what's been happening over the last few years in membership trends. So we'll be addressing that. Then practical help and advice and summaries about how you can move forwards, and then, as I say, Q&A. So if I can now hand over to Leisha, we'll start that first session. So Leisha, over to you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I am going to be discussing the research findings that we have carried out. So what members value most from your website. Okay, so across a spread of membership bodies, and here are some of the questions that we asked them. So we asked them things like how often they visit membership websites, and why do they visit out of interest or for other reasons. Do they see their membership body as a community, somewhere where they can have discussions with people? And what do they value most from their member website, if anything at all? So now we are going to discuss some of the results from this research video. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the challenge that many of you are facing with your websites these days. So this is a quote from a struggling CTO who was in a similar position to all of you in terms of their member website. And what they said is that when it comes to digital products, we're now dealing with different audiences who want lots of personalization and who want to compare us to Amazon. So the expectations are very high, so we completely understand what you're going through, and then we're here to kind of help you get to where you need to be. Okay, so here are some of the results from our survey. So according to the survey, here are some of the things that members value from their websites. So they value access to exclusive content and resources. So they want to feel special. It's not enough them having access to things that everybody else has access to. You know, they've signed up to be a member, so they want an exclusive member-only content that non-members do not see. Further to that, they appreciate additional personalization also, so content that is tailored directly to them. So it's important that they feel that they are being targeted, that their needs are understood by you, and they receive content that is personal to them and their business. Community is also very important. So they like to hear what other peers in the market are saying, to have the option to voice their opinions, and for people to comment on some of their experiences, and to have that sense of community, of communication between similar members also. Okay. And also they like it from an authoritative source. So like easy transaction and management, where they can go onto your website, they can update their profiles, and they can buy things that they need and access all of their member benefits easily. Also, they appreciate education and career development. So whereby they can go onto your website, they can buy courses, they can download different types of materials that will support them in their career and in their industry as well. And that can also feed into things like CPD points and so on, whereby they can be awarded for their achievements. Okay, and lastly, they also appreciate what relevant industry news. So, what is going on in the industry? What's the newest and latest going on, which might impact them individually and their business also. So, it's important for them to see that. Okay, so out of the 221 survey responses, these are the results of what members value most. So we see the two highest are personalization and education and career. So which tells us it's very important to have those at the forefront of your website if you're creating a new one. But we see across the board, all of these factors are somewhat important, including exclusive content, community, expertise to learn from their peers, industry news, and also campaigns on their behalf as well. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit. So how did we get here and the evolution of nonprofit websites? So looking back to between 2000 and 2005, websites, they were very basic. They were your poster website. They had some information on them, and the functionality was quite basic. Then we moved on between 2005 to 2014. We added in, on top of the basic online website, we added in self-service, where they might have access to a portal, and also e-commerce, where they can go and buy training, different products, and things like that. However, we have moved on again, and expectations have risen as well. So between 2014 and 2023, members are expecting more personalization, the ability to cross-sell, independence and nimbleness through a modern CMS. So it's a lot more than the basic transactional website, and they're expecting a higher level of service as well. And one of the biggest issues is that a lot of nonprofits are still stuck in 2005 to 2014 with their basic self-service and transactional website. Okay, so what's coming next? So now I'm going to pass you over to Alan to tell you about what is coming next for you.
Great, thanks so much, Leisha. So good morning, everybody. My name's Alan Reed. I've been an independent website and CRM consultant in the membership space since the first part of Leisha's slide back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where membership organizations were still saying, oh, let's have a website and we'll put up a picture of our building and say what nice people we are, and all of the different evolutions since then. So what's kind of exciting and kind of terrifying about websites for membership bodies at the moment is how fast the pace of change is. So one of the things that caused people to ask for this webinar again and to ask for what's changes is the big disruption with AI that's been coming since probably only about last October, with the rise of ChatGPT and Microsoft spending 10 billion, that's 9 zeros, on bringing artificial intelligence into the Microsoft Dynamics suite, bringing it into Microsoft Office. It's already part of Bing, and all of that stuff is already changing how we're doing website projects, in less than a year. So what I'd like to talk about really, this section, is what is changing with what people are asking for with website projects now. And the reason people are asking for it now is because they can see it's coming. They don't want to be buying, a new VHS recorder just as Netflix is taking over, and then it's just going to be gathering dust and it'll be back in the market in a year or two's time. So let's go through that. There are three main areas. Increased personalization from the rise of AI. So the robot knows more about you and is expecting to show that it knows more about you, so to give you a better service. There's a lot of demand now for building communities. I'll talk about that. within membership websites, and then a lot of demand from membership bodies themselves not to be beholden to suppliers, to be much more independently in control of their own site. So I'm going to go through those three things very quickly. Before I do, I'd like to just launch a quick poll, if I may, just to get some feedback from people. So as Leisha said, a lot of people are still stuck in that 2014 view of the website. So here's a poll we'd like to launch, which is asking you about how integrated you feel your website is to your other business systems like CRM, membership, education, and email. And there's a single choice of hardly at all, or quite a lot, or really we have very good integration. So if we could just get the poll up on the screen, and then just get your responses to the poll, please. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds on the poll. See the answers coming in. So what we're getting on the poll is quite terrifying from the point of view of the site of most people's websites. So virtually everyone is in the hardly at all integrated, and a bit. There's still some manual work integrated going across. So I guess it's, in a way, it's a bit of a self-selecting audience, but at the same time, it's a little bit of an indictment on the membership market and suppliers, because most organizations that we're dealing with are into their second and third generation of integration to their websites now. Okay, so moving across from there. So let's looking at what's becoming the new normal. So this is what people will expect as a standard going into next year. And some of this comes from our surveys, some of it comes from what we're seeing in tender demands, and some of it comes from our existing clients who are asking for these things already. So the first thing is people are asking for how is the rise of AI going to affect their website and how it's designed. So as I say, it's already coming through in what people are asking for on the websites. So even if it's not on your radar today, one of our main bits of advice is to make sure that even if it's on a back burner today, just focused on getting the basics of self-service and people updating their own details and booking on events, make sure the door is wide open when it comes to 2025, so that all of this stuff that we're about to talk about is available to you through the tools you're taking on and the suppliers you're taking on. So first of all, the change is really rapid. It's already, within 10 months, people are talking about AI as a standard part of websites. I think that's drawn from things like roughly for years now, roughly between 8 and 10 out of new membership CRM projects choose Dynamics as their platform. So they might choose it from a range of different suppliers, but Dynamics from Microsoft is the most commonly chosen platform, and because Microsoft is embracing AI so much, it's then driving how websites are being driven in the membership sector. So Copilot, which is the Microsoft name for their ownership of OpenAI's ChatGPT, is already part of Microsoft Office. It's already part of Bing, the browser. So if you're using Bing, you get an icon on the right-hand side that says, ask an AI-style question. It's already, part of it, of standard and for free. So that's becoming part of the norm that people are used to delivering. So it's already going to be used to drive more intelligent websites, starting really about now. So the kind of differences we're seeing that people are asking for is a lot more of the same and more sophisticated versions of things that people have been doing for some time. So personalized content recommendations and online messaging. So what we're anticipating and already starting to deliver is that AI can take a much more sophisticated view of what a person has been doing on the website before, what content they've been reading, what events they've attended, and every kind of whisper of interaction that you might have had with them. It then uses that data to recommend the next thing that the person will read, the next event they might attend, the next training course they might attend. So it's all very personalized, all very tailored to the individual. They then, of course, feel valued and understood and feel like this is a worthwhile relationship with their membership body. So the result of bringing AI into this equation is that the website is better for the member and actually more of an engine for growth for the membership body. So for instance, here we're seeing more messaging driving the interaction, more messaging driving behaviors that you want from the member. Now, just to be clear, this is something Smart Impact are doing already and have been doing for some time. It's more of the same, but more sophisticated versions of the same. So everything is personalized. So members see the courses and the training events that are most relevant to them. Messages like encouragement, messages like calls to action. This is the next thing on your career path. Here is something that will, get you over the line on your CPD. Much more tailored to the individual at every stage. And part of it, as we'll talk about later, is that the membership body is in control of this stuff without having to go back to the supplier every 10 minutes as well. Obviously the commercial aspect, don't forget to pay. These are all, this is going to be one of the first things that AI will be taking over for people. So all of that stuff is something that will become the expected standard on people's websites coming very, very soon. Then personalized content to a much higher degree than we're seeing at the moment. So not just content that people see on the website, but also content that people have sent to them. So what we are seeing now, as we're having conversations with clients about, we're having conversations on the forums with Microsoft and people who are demanding, the bleeding edge, is that the AI starts to manage more of the relationship. So happy birthday emails as a kind of cheesy example. Here is the anniversary of that. You took this course a year ago. You're due to refresh it. So all of those kind of things can be taken over. But also it's making sure that things like newsletters and eShop content are far more decision making. So it'll show this paragraph if you've done this in the past, but it will show this other paragraph if you've done that in the past. And so all of those kind of things help the member to feel like they've got an active and personalized relationship with their membership body. Again, all news, events and promotions personalized to the member. So all of this stuff is driven. If you know something about the member, show this. If you don't know something about the member, show something more general. But the more specific should always be a priority over the general. So then what we're also seeing is chatbots for support and guidance. Now, you might instinctively hate the idea of chatbots on your website, but this is talking about something very different from the usual, kind of popping up a paperclip and sorry, we don't know what you're talking about kind of chatbots. With the kind of ChatGPT engine behind it, the Copilot engine behind it, we're able to respond to the single most common complaint that members have. So in Leisha's survey results there, one of the single most common complaint was basically, we can't find anything. We know there's great stuff there, but I've actually emailed staff members to help me find it. I've had to, send call somebody up to help me find it. With Bing style responsive bots, people are actually able to type in plain English, what training course should I take next? What can you tell me about, this topic within my speciality? And the results will be far more sophisticated, far more targeted, and far more relevant. A key part of it is the third bullet on there, which is it used to take forever and lots of developer time to set this stuff up. And even then, the amount of knowledge wasn't very good. Now, bots can train themselves. The AI can train itself incredibly easily about your content. Just the same way it looks over the whole internet on a more wide search, it just looks over your website and content on a narrower search. And then it can train itself on your member data, who's currently visiting at the moment, which means the responses will actually make sense and will pretty much be as good as a human being for most types of query. Okay, so I'm trying to go fairly quickly through here, but so personalization through AI is going to be one of the biggest expectations and standards that we're expecting to see from 2023 into 2024, and will absolutely be the norm from the middle of 2024 onwards. Okay, so building communities is something else that has been talked about for many years. And has been attempted a few times. There's a few organizations that are doing it incredibly well, and it's going to become more of a standard. So again, part of the new normal. So just to talk about what communities are really briefly. So for years, some members, perhaps on this, for membership organizations on this webinar, have gone off and created their own groups out of your control. And they've done that partly because if you go to the average membership body website, there is nowhere on there to talk to your fellow members. There's nowhere to talk to your fellow professionals about your industry problem or some bit of news that's just happened. There's nowhere on the membership website to do that. It's purely transactional. I can book an event and update my details, and that's it. So that gap has forced these members in self-defense to go off and create out of control groups and out of your control. So the LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, more modern members might be doing discourse or Discord. And you might say, well, that's fine. Let people talk to each other. It's a free country. The problem is that for a membership body, it then leads to a lot of relevance and a loss of centrality to the message and to what you're providing. We've had some organizations, and I've worked with a client, had a huge problem with this, that rogue elements, people that just didn't like the membership body very much, were dominating these groups and nothing to be done about it. And then it actually becomes somewhere that people go and have a big moan about the membership body and say, oh, you can get this stuff for free elsewhere. And, they didn't respond for 10 minutes to my email. And it can cause quite a significant problem. So what we're seeing now is that membership bodies are fighting back. So we as a supplier provide managed community engagement. It's starting to become something that others are able to provide. So what does it now offer? So you can provide a community engagement area as part of your website. Then you're removing the need for them to go off and create something else out of your control. Lots of knowledge sharing, innovation, the adoption of best practice. And then, of course, community members are able to then guide each other, have conversations with each other, vent and shout with each other. And the big benefits for members are obvious, but the big benefits for the membership organization are enormous as well. So the slightly negative thing is that you become the gatekeeper and the controller of the conversation, but you're doing that in the interests of your members. You're doing that to further the cause. Then the real clear benefits are that the community becomes a reason for joining and a reason for maintaining membership. So it's not costing you a thing, but this whole engine of intellectual conversation and shouting at each other and having conversations about current topics, as well as sharing best practice, is one of your best engines for growth and maintenance of your membership base. And then the final thing is it creates the best content. So people are creating content just by being part of the community, which you can then use and share outside of the community to drive ever bigger growth and more content happening within the community. It's this virtuous cycle that happens. And then other benefits are that, of course, you're getting this 360-degree view. You're getting this insight and understanding of what your members are talking about. Because one of the biggest challenges of being a membership body is you don't, in very many cases, know what your members are most concerned about right now, unless you're continually doing surveys, unless you're continually running workshops. This is 24/7. You're actually having a self-generating feedback mechanism for seeing what your members are concerned about. And then, of course, you're able to find your advocates, your best supporters, and people who talk about you most positively. You probably have no idea who they are in some instances. This will allow you to know who they are. And then, of course, by amplifying their voice, it's 100 times, it's many times more impactful than you saying we're wonderful or this is something great we're doing. Having a member say it really rings true. So this is becoming something, please make sure that when you are going out to tender, when you are looking at your website options, that you are considering community as something that people will be demanding very, very soon if they're not already. And then the final thing, this is more about the membership body and your level of independence. So if I could just put up a quote here, this is a really common problem. But this came out from the survey that Leisha was talking about earlier. People having perfectly reasonable websites, as it is at the moment, but then having to change their supplier because every tiny little thing that they wanted to do, oh, that's going to take us 2 months and cost $3,000. Oh, you want to change a field label? That's going to, that'll take us whatever time and whatever amounts of money. And then when you get it, it's not quite what you wanted. So the whole thing just becomes static. It kind of withers on the vine. It gets old incredibly fast. So this whole principle of being able to manage your own website and have the supplier in a supporting role, not a doing role, is absolutely vital. So what modern membership organizations are demanding now, having learned from the past, is these kind of things. First of all, you should be able to manage your own content. That should be a given. So each team within your organization should be able to draft and profile their own content, link it to other content, explain why members should care about it and what's relevant in each piece of content. Now, you're doing all of this within a framework of your membership organization and your website. So the framework is, we have templates for a white paper. We have templates for a new piece of news or an event or a training course, and then your staff member within your empowered team just use that template, write what they want, but it's all within a standard. And then, of course, it's vetted and checked and moderated by whoever it is within your organization, and then published when you're happy. But at no point should you have to phone up a supplier and say, can we please do this? And at no point should you have only one person in your organization who is able to do it, because of all of those reasons lead to stagnation. You should also be able to manage what members can do yourselves without a supplier having to do it for you. So what you're really looking for is a supplier that has a kind of religious principle that the client should be independently in control of their own website, and that they will help. They will help you over a hump when you come to it, and their role is to help you become empowered. And they're there to do whatever you want, but you should want as little as you absolutely need from the supplier. So control what members can see, what menu options they can get to, what they can book, buy, or edit based on their membership profile, and of course every bit of content and messaging they get along the way. They should be able to manage your education and events, should go without saying. But where it really comes true is where you've got a new event or course. Should you need a supplier because of that? What about if you've got a new type of event or course? Well, the chances are that 100 other membership organizations do your type of event or course. There's no reason you should be inventing the wheel and having it as a big development project. So those kind of things should be no problem with a modern membership website and a supplier who does it for a living with membership organizations. And then finally, you should only have to make changes once. So that means that you should only have to if you change, say, oh, if people are interested in this type of topic, add it once to the CRM, then it should start appearing on the website as something people can respond to. Create a survey once, should start appearing on the website where you choose. Create a new type of field that people can edit by going through a process that you manage. It then starts appearing on the website in the way that you want. Do it once and have it reflected. That should be the principle. Really, it's all about you being empowered, because if you're not empowered, the website will be stagnant and you'll be replacing it again in 2 or 3 years' time, which is obviously the opposite of what anybody wants. Okay, so that's that. So what I'd like to do is finish with a final poll, if I may. Then I'm just going to hand over to Steve, who's going to give some practical advice on how to get from where you are now to where you need to be on your website. So if we could just ask how you describe your supplier relationship. Sorry, and I've said multiple choice there. It's actually single choice. So could you reply? Do you have the same supplier for CRM and website? Do you have separate suppliers? Do you have good independent control over your website, or are you too reliant on your supplier for the website? No, sorry, it is multiple choice. So fire away, and we're seeing some replies coming in to that. We'll give it a few seconds. Thank you. Okay, so a few more seconds, and we'll close the poll. Thank you. All right. So again, quite scary results. No one's saying they have, pretty much no one's saying they have good independent control over improvements to their own website and content. Too many people are too reliant on their supplier, so that quite old-fashioned model. And a lot of people are pretending their website in the back office. The staff are running around to pretend they've really got good integration, but actually a lot of it is happening by hand. Okay, so quite a damning indictment of the supplier marketplace again. Great, thank you very much for that. So Steve, if I could just hand over to you, if that's okay.
Lovely. So, well, thanks, Alan, and before that, Leisha. Some good insights into the market. So, what I'll do now for the next 10 minutes or so is pick up on some of that, talk about how we think organizations should go around creating a really good website and experience, and then some of the summary information out of that as well. So, If we look at the building blocks, so we think there are 4 main blocks that we advise customers to do. But the first one, and we've always believed this, is it's all about the data. It's all about the integration. So we have covered, and we'll cover a bit more in depth about a lot of websites are seen as very visual things. It's actually, to us, it's the plumbing, the personalization that's driven out of the data that's plumbed in, the ability for the website to not only take data and change its behavior based on the data that's in your CRM or other support systems, but also to then feed back behavioral stuff back into the CRM, so you can then start to drive more personalization. So to us, the data integration is absolutely key. We find that it's a revelation for those customers where we provide both the CRM and the CMS, because suddenly they can do very, very different things. They can become much more personalized in their approach, which is obviously much, much more difficult the worse your data integration is. So data integration is key. We'll cover a bit more about that in a minute as well. The next is to create and control your own website. So, Alan talked about it should be a given that you've got control over your own content, but quite a lot of organizations try to only produce their own content. They don't take content from members, they don't take content from some syndicate suppliers and so on. And this is possible. This is also valuable. If members start to engage well, then encourage them to engage well. Make it easier for them to contribute documents, which obviously you're going to review the content, but you should embrace them as much as possible, because then you're starting to get great ambassadors who will then start to help you build your membership. So this doesn't suit every organization, but it does suit some. But the point is, you need a supplier who, as Alan says, sees themselves as a provider of support and service, and you can therefore do what you want with your own content and create your own template pages and create your own layouts and so on. A lot of suppliers still try to tie you down. They don't give you that freedom, which is hence the quote that we had earlier about everything I ask for seems to cost a lot of money and take quite a lot of time on the website. It shouldn't be like that. These are modern pieces of technology now. If you've got the systems that aren't proprietary based, like some suppliers still have, you should have a lot more control. So think about how you can drive your content. Think about who else can drive your content with you as well, because otherwise your website can get static and quite boring pretty quickly. I think the other point to mention about content is that you can also, as some of our customers do, drive any mobile apps you've got with the same content. So the personalization rules come from the data, because that's the foundation block. And then the same members can get a similar experience on a mobile app as they can with your website, with no extra content control from you, no extra personalization rules from you. You just set your rules, produce your content, and it's available in both sites. That's really important. So let's look at some of the aspects of what we mean by the ability to be able to adapt and control and be nimble. So across your organization, obviously you've got many departments with different areas, but you want them all to be able to control their own content, whether it's events department publishing events or training and the exams information, or just general newsletters and content. But if you can enable the experts within your organization to be able to produce their own content, they don't have to publish it themselves, some do, but if they can at least funnel it through your staff, then that's good. The next point, and this is point number 2, which we think is really important, is we see so many website projects just going really slowly, particularly when they're live, because if you want to change them, it takes a long time. And if you want to add new data, then sometimes you add the new data into your CRM, then you've got to get the website supplier, if it's a different supplier, to add exactly the same data fields to the website, then you've got to integrate them. And that means that you're duplicating the cost, you're extending the timeframes, because both suppliers have got to work on the same thing at the same time, and quite often scheduling is a difficulty and so on. we realized that was a big obstacle some years ago when we were integrating to lots of external websites with external suppliers. So we've re-engineered our system. So if we add a new field that you require in CRM, it goes through our interface into the websites we provide and is automatically created in the website and integrated. Makes it so much more nimble to change your website and keep it driving forwards with different information, different personalization, and so on. And also, you should obviously have a lot more control around the various apps that you do through your website. So we showed earlier about personalized messages about CPD or renew your membership, but you should be able to do that. You should be able to produce surveys and so on. But it's all down to really good integration with your CRM and other systems. So moving on. Sorry, I can hear some background noise. Is that me or? If everyone could mute themselves, that would help. So thank you. So next, content and strategy. So we talked about, the ability for different areas to produce it, but where are you going to get it from? This is quite often not treated as heavily as it should be. So where are you going to get it from? How are you going to curate it? How are you going to check it? How are you going to drive it forwards and so on? And this is key to keeping your website relevant. Some organizations, and we've seen this particularly in the States, some organizations are even able to start analyzing the content they've got, producing statistics out of it, and then monetizing the production of that statistics. So you can even start to make money out of really good content if it's driven by experts, and a lot of those experts are in your member base. I think there's one other really important part of content as well, which is organizations or members will come to your website. They'll be ideally presented with personalized content, but then they'll select what they view. And it's really important to pass that selection, that engagement back into your CRM so you can start to analyze their behavior and then improve the personalization based on what you're learning. We've got a tool called Smart Engagement, which does exactly that. You can tell it which pages you're interested in. You can give the page weightings. You can give dwell time ratings and so on. So you can start to see what's important to each different type of member or each different group of members if you want to start putting them into groups as well. So that's really important, that data should come from CRM into the website to drive stuff, but it should also go back. The behavioral stuff should go back. And then you can analyze that within your CRM system and learn from that as well. So I think that's a very important point. And then finally, and we've got this as the last block, really, it should probably be the first block. It's the blunt question of why should anyone bother to come to our website? And it sounds fundamental, but a lot of organizations still don't do this. They still think, well, we need one because the other guys have got one. But we don't think about what's going to make it different. And as Alan says, maybe add in community connect type things in it and so on and so on. And this is particularly important if you're dealing with a membership space where there are a lot of free information sites. And we see that a lot around healthcare, for instance. There's loads and loads and loads of free healthcare sites sponsored by the healthcare industry. And if you're trying to compete with that, that's a hard job. So again, start to think about what's relevant for your market and your members that they can't necessarily get elsewhere, so that you become the place that's valuable and worth investing their membership funds in. So those are the four main building blocks. If we take a bit of time now to look at the most common blockers, and this is what's come back out of our feedback from the surveys. So I've majored on integration. It's key. It really is important. It's not treated well enough. Everyone will say, yeah, we can integrate our CRM to a website, and website suppliers will say, yeah, we can integrate to CRM. Traditionally, a lot of organizations have not been good at integration. So absolutely make sure you've got proof of how good they are, what it does. Does it create a field in one and put it into the other? Or does it just pass information? Does it pass it one way? Is it real time? And so on and so on and so on. So in your selection process, that's really important. Second part is out-of-date tech. So CRM and CMS have evolved a lot, and they're evolving even more now, as Alan says, with AI. But out-of-date tech or reasonably good tech that's been implemented in a reasonably poor way will limit what you can do in terms of your content, your agility, and your integration. So again, look at your systems, review where you think the weakness is, because it might not be in your software, it might be in the integration, it might be in your working practices, it might be in what your suppliers are allowing you to do, because they're limiting what you can do, and actually the technology would allow more. So again, I would review that. Cultural issues sounds an odd one again, but I think it comes back to, why do we need a website? Quite often senior management will say, well, we need one because everyone else has got one, but they don't see the website as a massive asset or as a system in the same way as you might see a finance system or a CRM system or an exam system and so on. So these are business solutions. Websites are business solutions. They need management support. They need time from staff. They need time slicing from staff who aren't directly involved with the website, because they've got to help keep it up to date, keep content going, keep reviewing it, keep making sure it's relevant to members. And that takes time. So again, I would drive any senior management to treat this much more like a continuously improving project, just like other IT should be. And then we've talked a little bit about this as well, but the lack of ability to control your own website. And we see this time and time again with massive frustration with organizations that really feel they ought to be able to do a lot more and they can't. And that's often because the supplier wants to shut bits of it down, or it could be that it's old proprietary tech. There's still quite a lot of proprietary solutions out there for websites, particularly in the membership space, when they cannot possibly keep up with the R&D that the Umbracos and Kenticos and Drupals of this world just drive forwards at hundreds of thousands or millions of pounds a year. So start to look at the global systems, not the proprietary ones, because you'll have a lot more freedom on what you do on your website and so on. And the more agility you've got, the more control you've got, means that your system agility can move further forwards and not become frozen or slowed down because it's so expensive to change if you've got duplicate suppliers and duplicate work. So let's look at some practical steps. So I talked about membership, I talked about management sponsorship. So include or get as much support as you can from them. So these are living sites. They need to be refreshed regularly, and that takes commitment. And it's not just the look and feel. So quite often people come to us, say, look, we need our website replacing because it's awful. But that only is a look and feel thing often. Sometimes the routes through it, the UX are fine, but it's just the look and feel. That isn't what a refreshed website's about. It's keeping the content and everything else updated as well. And that needs time from the leadership team. And as I say, it's a business change project. So don't think it's just technology, and be very clear on what the benefits are out of this. And as we said before, start with a compelling business case. We treat these exactly the same as CRM. We say to people, don't just look at a CapEx budget to put the system in, get an operations budget to keep it going year on year and maintain it and improve it, so that you don't have to replace it. Too many websites are replaced within 3 years. They don't need to be. Number 2, get some help. So you can't do it all yourself. Some organizations do, but generally they'll work with organizations such as Smart Impact. But these take quite a long time, and they need staff internally on your side, particularly around the project management, to coordinate all the different resources that are needed. Quite often that's just shoehorned into someone else's job, If you're a technical person, you're not necessarily a project manager. If you're a digital content person, you're not necessarily a project manager. So make sure you've got good control on your side. Okay, so if that's all in place, we get to the next step. So suppliers and partners. So until recently, back office and website suppliers, CRM and website suppliers have been seen as separate. We've been involved with both for 6 or 7 years now. And we think that that's really important, because if you have separate suppliers, as I say, it can be less than nimble. Costs can double because you've got to do many things in 2 places. If you're changing processes, if you're changing data, and quite often, if things go wrong, you get organizations pointing at each other, and you're stuck in the middle, and you've got to try and adjudicate. So that's not always the case. There are some very, very good relationships, and we've had some great systems with great suppliers as well. But I would say the time's now starting to look at people that can provide both, because you get a much better experience and a much better engagement and agility out of it. So, as we say, that comes mostly out of the integration and the data driving between the 2 systems. So, if you're looking at that, a lot of organizations came from one or the other background. We were known as a Dynamics house, but we bought a web agency, and we've grown on that for the last 6 years. So again, it's worth making absolutely sure where your supplier's strengths are and that they're equally comfortable with both solutions. Then next is making sure that you've got alignment on a number of areas, which I'll list in a minute. But again, this is so that internally you're very sure on what you're doing and why you're doing it. So have proper workshops internally about the content, the strategy of that content, what it's for, who's going to create it, who's going to approve it, how it's going to be managed, how it's going to be refreshed on a regular basis, because this is the lifeblood of your website. Value proposition, we talked about that. Too few organizations really know what they're expecting out of it and what business benefit it's going to bring them. And also continually review with your members how your services and benefits you're providing are suiting them. How easy is it for them to access it? How are they consuming it? Is it really fit for purpose? So workshops regularly, not just at the beginning of the project, are vital to keep those things going. And then once you've decided that, stick to it. You've decided that you want a website for a particular purpose, with particular content in a particular way. So don't get sidetracked as it evolves, unless there's a very, very good reason that ties back to the original business case. So make sure that you stick to what you think is important. And that can include things like very, very easy navigation and search, or community, or find a member, and so on and so on. Or you might just want something that looks absolutely cutting edge. So again, slick and bleeding edge aren't bad descriptions. They can be very, very good in the right process, in the right environment, but also have independent control. So just a quick aside, and this is odd for an organization like us that does web design, but we see too often web decisions being made on what it looks and feels like, and that's, as we've hopefully established, not the thing. You can change the look and feel quite easily. It's about data integration and control of the content and your freedom. And an example of why you shouldn't get hung up on design, there's a really good website that we tell people about forever. It's called CSS Garden. And it looks a pretty basic website because it's there to make a point. But the whole point is that it's there to show you what different look and feel can be made and how quickly it can be done. So these are all exactly the same website. It's the same structure, it's got the same data, it's got the same integration, it's just got different style overlaid. And the purpose of this is you don't have to like any of those styles. The point of this is that you can move from one style to another with that underlying strong architecture easily. So don't make decisions on an agency coming to you saying, here's a beautiful website, Make decisions on what the architecture's like, what the integration's like, how much control you've got, because you can change the design much more easily than most people realize, yet they still make the decision on what the design's like. And you could use an agency just for the design. You could use someone else to provide all the architecture and the technology if you wanted to do that. So design is important, but it's not the most important, and it gets too much headspace. So moving on, we said about if people are reviewing, track behavior and move it on. So I talked about our smart engagement product. So if someone visits your website, find out what they're doing, track that information, send it back into the CRM, and then you use it in your analysis and driving future personalization or email messaging or other ways of communication and interaction. So it should be a main engine for you getting more information out of your members, getting them to enter more data, profiling themselves, giving you good stuff you can personalize with, telling you what their preferences are, telling you what they like about your website and not. So there's a lot you can do to drive your website through and create this virtuous circle. And to make the point, it's about getting better data, tracking and acting on responses, and getting really great insight. And then finally, and this is a bonus point because this was called 6 practical steps, but we got 7. Keep going. Don't treat it just as a build it, leave it for 3 years, and then build it again, because it's too expensive and it's not necessary. So keep it up to date, keep the content revolving, keep the value proposition updated, because things move on. Technology changes. We've covered AI a little bit. That's going to be a massive change and driver. So keep the product up to date. And that's with internal user groups, external user groups, suppliers, and so on. But you can be massively improved by involving your members regularly. We hardly ever come across organizations that have regular member focus groups. And with that, that's my last part. So, Alan,
Marvelous. Thank you. We've just got time for a couple of Q&A questions that have come in. So if I could post these to you and Leisha, and then just get your thoughts on these one. So Leisha, could you mind if I post this one to you, or pose this one to you? There's a question asking, do I need to replace my website entirely to integrate it to the CRM? So is it a kind of replace everything model, or can I improve my website and integrate it without having to replace everything?
So the latter is correct. You can keep your same website and integrate it to your CRM. So then you have the benefits of both. So if you really like your website, you still keep that great content, and then have the added value of integrating it to your CRM and increasing the value of that. So it's by no means you need to replace everything situation. You can keep your website and we can integrate it for you.
Great, fantastic, nice, concise answer. Thank you. So this one, I'll ask Steve, if I may. It seems like the whole AI topic continues to be a burning thing for many people. And I'll merge 2 questions together on this in the interest of time. So the questions are about, what should I put in my tender documents? What should I be asking new potential suppliers for? So one of the things is, should I be putting AI integration into the core, into the tender document, and the other one together then, if you don't mind, how do I describe that I want to be independently in control of my website when it comes to putting it into my requirements? So those 2 things at once, if you don't mind, Steve.
Okay, all right. There's slightly different subjects, but I think just very quickly on AI, because we've got only a couple of minutes. So we're running an event in October, as it shows on the screen. So that will cover this in a lot more detail. I think the main thing, without going into a long conversation around AI, is find suppliers that are already involving AI in their products. So, for instance, we've covered what Microsoft are doing in this. It's basically major vendors are incorporating this big time into their products anyway, and they're coming through as part of the products that you've already bought. You won't get this from the smaller vendors. You certainly won't get it from proprietary systems where they're going to have to take something external and shove it in. Microsoft and other large website vendors as well have built a number of these things in. And as we see, it's already being included in CRM, it's being included in Office by Microsoft. You can use those tools and through the integration drive website content and website personalization using that. So that's that side. On the how do we take control of our own website? I think it's some simple things. Can I create my own templates? Because quite often suppliers will just create ones for you, and then when you want a new one, you've got to go back and ask them to buy it. Can you then, once you've got the template, can you edit it and change it so you're changing layout slightly, or do you have to then have a whole series of different templates? And also, what a black box. So make sure that you're able to get into all of the parts of the system that you want to in terms of security and processes and so on and so on. And ask the vendors directly, what areas do they have to do that you can't do? So there's a whole range of different areas around that. But I think if you're in control of the templates and layout, it's definitely the content and making sure you understand what else you're going to have to rely on the supplier to do rather than yourself. Those are useful questions.
Great, thank you. There's one question I'll just take myself, if you don't mind, which is Charlotte Plum has asked, do members expect to pay extra for training courses? And in my experience of it, advising, many membership organizations over the years, the answer is it tends to be, obviously there's some people who don't expect to pay anything once they've paid, their entry to the fun fair. They expect everything, including the hot dogs, to be free. Others are more realistic about that. I think the general wisdom is that as long as there are some things that are provided within the membership fee, so that you do get some training and events as a member as part of your membership fee, and certainly a significant discount to that, they will then accept that other things are chargeable, as long as it's paying less than a general public. That is the general rule. So try and provide some nods to free as part of membership. But and then of course everything should be less if you are a member, but most members will accept that there is a charge for certain things that not every member is taking up, that are quite specialist within the membership itself, and that's the justification for paying for it. So then,
and
a
if
final
I can
question,
add one thing to that, Alan, as well.
Please.
I mean, we showed very quickly an example from the College of Optometrists, but there, where you click on the events there and the training there, it'll show you a whole list of the personalized events for you as a member, but the rules will calculate which of those are free and which of them are chargeable at particular discount levels, entirely based on the data and your membership level and your past participation and so on. So you can define the rules, and then the system will drive those rules and pitch the pricing based upon the rules you've decided.
And then final question in 30 seconds or less, if you don't mind. Back to you, Leisha. Are you seeing much demand for apps? Is apps something that Smart Impact are being asked to do and have done?
Yes, many customers are asking for apps, especially those who are looking to target younger audiences, because with apps it's twofold. Obviously, people can access information and content via their mobiles on an app, and also they can receive push notifications as well. And so apps, yeah, they're becoming increasingly important.
Great. Thank you very much. I think that's it for the Q&A. And then just back to you then, Steve, if that's okay.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. We hope you found that was useful. There's probably quite a lot of stuff in there, so I hope we conveyed it well. As I say, we run these regularly. Please look on our website for the next events. As I showed you, the next one's about AI at the end of October. We'll be publishing the recordings on our website in the next couple of days. We'll also be sending you some emails out about some of the content and the surveys as well. If you'd like any conversations around any of the stuff that we've covered today, then by all means contact me either on that email address or just simply info@smartimpact.co.uk. And thanks for your attendance. I hope that was useful. Bye for now.